Welcome to the Workbench and welcome to another episode of Wheels Wings TV. Today we have the all-new 1/72nd scale BF109E from AZ model. Let's have a look. First sprue, we've got our fuselage halves with their full tailplane and rudder molded to 1/2. So we get nice sharp edges, and then just the center section molded to the right half. Got 3 different types of spinner. Got the truncated one, which was supposed to have the centerline cannon. We've got the more blunted one and the sharp one. Got our drop tank, the mount, cowling insert for the guns. Got our tailplanes and that's a 250 or 500 kilogram bomb. Nice consistent panel lines, not too deep, not too wide. Some very nice fastener detail, especially up and around the cowling on the tail here. Nice restrained sort of, I believe that was a fabric, I believe they were fabric control surfaces on the 109. We've got some basic detail molded to the inside of the fuselage halves for the cockpit. Don't have a few little ejector pins, but nothing big and nasty that we have to worry about, which is good. Might have to, some of the times the bulkheads you gotta watch on your clearances, but on the drop tanks and the bomb, even though they stick out, they don't stick past the gluing surfaces, so nothing to worry about there. We do have a decently done little instrument panel with some subtle little raised detail. Nothing amazing, but for the scale, that's not too bad. It's all our little fine bits and our balance horns and machine gun barrels, pitot tubes and radio masts. Struts for the tailplane are very, very thin. Hopefully those line up well. Got our early style supercharger intake. Looks pretty good. Definitely a big improvement over their earlier stuff. Second sprue, we got our upper and lower wings. Once again, more very nice panel lines, fastener detail, and nice ribbed texture on the ailerons and the flaps. It's going to look really good. Little bits of fastener detail. Looks good. Even more on the bottom half. Bulges for the 20mm cans molded in, so I don't know if they're doing a BF1 an E1 variant, which would have had the machine guns if they have you grind those off, or if they have a separate sprue with the wings for the earlier ones. But for your E3s, 4s, and 7s, that's perfectly appropriate. Got our propeller, nice, very nicely thin, not a very subtle mold seam, not too bad. Of course, you do see a little bit of the hub detail through the spinner, so that's taken care of. Nice addition here. We have the reconnaissance camera that you can add on, so that's something good to put in your spares bin. We've got our two different types of early wheels. The trim wheels for the cockpit. Wheels look very good. Compared to the wheels you get in some kits, those are very nice. So good faces or radiators with a little bit of a mesh texture molded in there. That looks really good. Pilot seat, tail wheel. A little bit of the detail for the wheel wells molded in the upper half. Some nice recessed fasteners on the inside of the landing gear covers. A decently appointed little cockpit tub. Exhaust stubs are a little clunky, but not too bad. You don't see a lot of the exhausts on a 109 with the little shrouds around them, but if you so choose, you could always spring for some resin replacements. And of course, trailing edge with the control surfaces and the tip molded to 1/2, so we get nice sharp edges, which is always good. And nice big square sockets for our landing gear legs, so those should fit quite positively. Big thing with every 109 kit is getting the outward cant and the forward rake just right. This looks quite good. And lastly, our clear sprue with our one-piece canopy with a separate, I believe that's the armored windshield and the gun sight. No lensing through the canopy, so that's nice and thin. Little bit of haziness in the plastic, so not perfectly clear, but much better than some other kits from AZ I've seen, so they're definitely improving their canopy game. Framing is very subtle, so you're going to want to take your time masking, be very careful, or spring for the separately available mask set. I believe AZ actually have their own that you can get, or other aftermarket. So, but fortunately Messerschmitts are all very square, so masking isn't too tricky. No flash at all, nice flat edges, so that should go together quite well. Looks good. And our decals. Usual in-house printed by AZ models. Blacks and whites are always really good with these guys. It's only when you really get to colors that you start to see the little dot matrix from the printing process. But they're not too bad on this one. Of course, we got those iconic little Hornets emblems. Squadron started out on BF 110s and then later switched to 109s, but they kept their little Hornet logo, which is pretty cool. One of the probably most often modeled paint schemes for the 110 is with the Hornet on the nose. And we do have our swastikas on the decal sheet there, so we don't have to go out and find some extra ones. And if you like, harnesses are on the decal sheet. They don't look horrible, better than nothing, but usually a little flat and featureless looking. And we do have some walk lines. And we also have separate stencil sheet for just generic E, so this is probably goes for every single one of their E kits, and then they just give you specific markings. More walk lines and little stencils, fuel fillers and footrests, and actually I'll say, nicer looking belts than we get on this sheet, so that's nice. And a second instrument panel. I'm not sure. Yeah, they're a little different. But a lot of clear around the periphery of these ones, so you want to make sure that they settle down good if you decide to use them. But AZ Decals, they look kind of bad on the sheet, but they always seem to settle down quite nicely, so I wouldn't be too worried about those. And our instructions. We've got usual blurb about the BF-109, basically the most produced single-engine fighter in history. I believe somewhere in the neighborhood of 30-odd thousand of these things made over various different variants. You read your instructions, got our symbol legend, color callouts, thoughtfully providing the standardized RLM numbers. It's no good just saying dark green RLM 70, then I can convert that to whatever paint brand I like. Got our sprue map with only a few parts we're not using. They do say, depending on which one you get, you're going to have a different canopy. So obviously the E3s, they had a different canopy than the E4s and 7s. So I probably would have redded that out on this one, but we've got instrument panel with our optional decal. Got nice color callouts. Now there, you got a letter legend for your individual colors. So unlike some of their other kits where they actually write out each individual color, they've gone for a little bit more simplistic approach, but they also print the instructions in the colors of the parts being painted, so you can always just go off of that as well, which is a nice touch. And you got your seatbelt decals and your various trim wheels, gun sight, control column. Oh, and there's something I didn't know. The Swiss version of the 109 had a unique control column, kind of a British style sort of round grip there. The things you learn. Instrument panel goes onto the forward bulkhead, gun sight goes on the instrument panel. Different spinners depending on which variant you're going with. So I assume all of these are using the pointy one, as this is the E7 variant, but you might also see the earlier type one. So fuselage goes into the cockpit half. We've got the kind of the ducking insert here for the oil cooler. A little call out here to make sure that part 23 is perfectly parallel to the top here. And we got our exhaust pipes, which go install from the inside, so we can't paint those separately. We got our radiators going into the lower wing, upper wings attached to the lower wings. Got our landing gear going together, watching our dihedral on the wings when we put all that together. Fuselage goes to the wings, and then we've got our cowling insert with the machine gun barrels, which are joined as one piece. And then to make sure you get these on the right orientation, one barrel sticks out further than the other so that the ammunition feeds would clear. So the right side barrel is more recessed than the left side barrel, so make sure you put that in correctly. Then we got our 20mm cannons for the wings, and optional standard or tropical filter. Our tail wheel. And because this kit is for the Jabo or the Jagdbombe, we've got our ETC carrier with the bomb. although the E7, I believe, was the first one that could carry a drop tank, so you've got that option as well. Torpedo tube and our mass balances on the ailerons. Tail planes with their struts go in, so hopefully those struts are the right length so that the elevators are going to be perfectly horizontal. We got our windshield with the armored glass, depending on variant, of course. And they give specific mention for Adolf Galan's Messerschmitt, which had the telescopic sight through the windshield. The other thing they don't mention is that Adolf Galan's Messerschmitt was the only one in the Luftwaffe that had a cigar lighter in the cockpit. Paint framing according to the version. And build is done, and just on to our individual stencils. Nice glossy paper, definitely nice, more nicely printed than some of their other kits. It's kind of a shame we don't have the color callouts in each step, but on the other hand, nicer printing, so everything's printed in color, so we don't really need to consult our paint guide too much there. Nice, clear sprue guide, so that looks quite good. Still tight, but seems more it's condensed but more spread out than other instructions I've seen, so these are nice and easy to follow. Yeah, shouldn't lead you astray. And the color schemes. So we've got 2 Eastern Front aircraft and 1 in North Africa. These 2 aircraft, of course, have the Hornet for ZG1, both with kind of a what looks to be some sort of field-applied sort of camouflage. Both in Belgrade, Russian, summer of 1942. And we've got easier, more difficult, and interesting. So this one here, just solid, what I would assume be RLM 70 upper surfaces with just the mottling of RLM 2 on the sides. And then 65 on the bottom with your yellow Eastern Front markings. Option 2 has that RLM 2 modeling on top as well. Now for the interesting one, the desert scheme appears to have a replacement wing from a European camouflaged 109, because we've got the desert RLM 79 and 78, but on the starboard wing, we've got our standard RLM, what I assume be 71 and RLM 2 with 65, so that's probably get you some weird looks on the show table or on the display cabinet, but that's a very interesting scheme. I'd like to see the photos from. Not that I don't believe them, I just like to see the pictures of that, because that's really interesting. So obviously this wing got damaged, and the only thing they had laying around was, well, hey, get it on. I don't care if it's painted or not. So that's pretty cool. But I think most people will probably be going for the iconic Hornet logo on the nose of those ones, as interesting as that is. Cool. So, AZ's new 172nd 109E. Is this up there with the new Special Hobby Kit? Probably just looking at it have to say no, but is it a nice looking 109 in general? And yes, it is. This is a very nice looking little kit. With modern CAD design and tooling abilities, even the short run companies are starting to be able to compete with the mainstream manufacturers, if not in fit and precision, then at least in terms of detail. And AZ definitely have a nice looking small scale 109 here. Now this example was kindly provided by the good folks at AZ Model, so thank you very much for that. We will be doing a build review of this kit in the not too distant future, so if you don't want to miss out on that, hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you next time.